All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. I hope my audio is clear. So, thank you so much for joining us this Saturday afternoon. We hope that everyone's safe, especially now that we are in a pandemic. Anyway, welcome. Happy Saturday and welcome to GDG Philippines' first ever virtual event for the year. I am Trisha Espino and I will be your host for today. So recently, we have partnered with GDG Singapore for the rework sessions, which featured several leaders in the tech industry. We at GDG definitely believes that learning should continue within our community, especially that we are in a fast-paced tech community. So, which is why this afternoon we will be having our Android and cloud session. So, please feel free to share this live stream to encourage your other dev friends to watch and learn. You may use the hashtags #GDG Philippines, #Android, #Google Cloud, #GDG Cloud, #Google Technologies, and later you can also ask questions from our speakers. So, I know you guys are excited and I wouldn't make this any longer. Okay, so I'll go ahead and introduce our first speaker. He's a senior software engineer from Plantina and specializes in Android development and has been making Android apps since 2016. Wow. He spends a lot of time experimenting, researching, and finding the best practices. From time to time, he shares his experiences and learnings on mobile development through workshops, speaking at events like this one, and of course, writing articles as well. So the screen is yours, Sir Kurt Renzo Acosta.
Are we live?
Hello. There.
Hi, hello.
Hello, welcome to this event, sir. Okay, so you can go ahead and you can start with your talk. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Can someone present my screen? Huh. There we go. Okay. Hi everyone. So my name is Kurt, and yeah, thank you for that wonderful introduction. So, yeah, I'm currently a senior software engineer for Plantina, and currently I'm doing a lot on full stack development, so touching back end, web, and mobile. But yeah, just like in the introduction, yeah, I've been doing Android apps since 2016, and it's really where I enjoy development. So here I am, even though doing full stack development, I still spend some time trying to invest in like topics in Android. And in Android, right now, there's a really hot topic, and this is what I'm going to be talking about, which is Jetpack Compose. So just for a quick background on Jetpack Compose, it was announced like 2 years ago, actually, which was in 2019. So they teased us with this new thing called Jetpack Compose, which was supposed to like make UI development much easier for us. So it was teased back then. It was really a good. It seemed promising, and then back in October 2019, they released the first developer preview. So not even an alpha, but it was a developer preview. So they developed this UI toolkit out in the open, getting feedback from a lot of developers, seeing what other developers want. And after a few more iterations, they released the first alpha last year in August 20. So this was the phase they ironed out the API. They figured out how people want to use them. And this was really like 2 years ago and was really something that a lot of people were kind of anticipating. And this is really exciting right now because like last month they just released the first beta of Jetpack Compost. So now the APIs are stable, and now they're just looking for like maybe performance and bug fixes to push it into production or something stable. So yeah, so let's dive in, like learn about Compose. So what is Jetpack Compose? So yeah, Jetpack Compose is Android's modern toolkit for building native UI. So as it says here, Jetpack Compose simplifies and accelerates UI development on Android. It quickly brings your app to life with less code. It's a powerful tool, and it has intuitive Kotlin APIs. So yeah, Kotlin gives us less code. We're gonna see a lot of that later. It's intuitive. It should be easy to read and understand. It's very declarative, and it's a powerful tool. It's as powerful as our current view system, and with all of those in mind, it would lead us to like faster development. So Jetpack Compose. So like what is Jetpack Compose? Why is Jetpack Compose here? Like the current view system works. Like why do we even have to make this? So let's start with a simple example, classic example of Hello World. So let's see how this is in the current view system. So in the current view system, you're gonna have to write this code. So here I have my XML layout in Android saying, hey, I want the vertical linear layout and I want a text view inside of it. Now, once I have my layout, I'm gonna bind that to my activity and I'm gonna say, hey, I want you to use the XML I just created. I want you to get a reference to my view via the find view by ID or maybe something new via view binding and just change that text to hello world. And there we go, a simple hello world. So this seems pretty easy, right? But let's see how this plays out in Compose. So in Compose, this is actually everything we need. So I don't need to make an XML. I don't need to like bind. I just want to say, hey, I want my content to have a material theme and I want it to have a text of hello world. So it's intuitive, right? It's declarative and it's much, much less code. So I don't know about you, but the first time I saw this, like I was like, what? This is all we needed in Compose? Like, why didn't we have this way before, right? So so it's really exciting that now we're kind of getting these tools with the technology that's available to us. And yeah, what else can we do with Compose? So they're also reusable. So they're also just functions. So here I'm creating a function saying greeting. I'm passing in over a name. And upon passing that name, I'm just going to create a text saying hello to that name. So it's annotated by at composable, meaning this is a Jetpack Compose function. And then I can just quickly reuse that. And this is so easy. This is how easy it is to like create reusable components and Compose. So I'm just saying I want a greeting for Android and I want a greeting for Jetpack Compose. So yeah, just it's just a quick teaser. We're gonna see a lot more code and like how it's much less code later. But again, that's an example. Why Jetpack Compose? Why is it here? Why replace the current view system, which is fully working and fully stable? So there are actually a lot of reasons on why it's not just making it modern. Um, One of the reasons why they want to do this is they want to unbundle the UI toolkit from platform releases. So one problem is that, for example, if there's a current bug in the current view system, um, so let's say there's a bug and it was fixed tomorrow, we're as developers would have to wait for like a year for that to get released because that it's really bundled with the platform. So if the bug exists in Android 11, you're gonna have to wait for Android 12, and like a year is so long for for just a simple bug fix, right? So us developers have to wait, and along with that, our consumers would have to wait for us to fix our apps. So they wanted to unbundle this so they can just release UI toolkit fixes aside from platform releases. Next, they wanted fewer technology stack flowcharts. So we're using XML, Java, and Kotlin, right? So it would be much better if we're just on the Kotlin or Java world. So they also wanted to clarify state ownership and handling. We're gonna look into states earlier, and writing less code and going with modern trends. And you know, Jetpack Compose has taken inspiration from modern tools such as Flutter. So Flutter is really popular, right? So it's kind of that way as well. It's declarative. There's also React. There's Vue. There's Litho. So they wanted to like bring those styles of programming into Android as well. And yeah, now it's here. So enough of about some background on Compose. So let's start composing. So let's start with first our building blocks, which are components. So um, what are the components that we can do? So here I have an example here, which is just a screen having a toolbar, just some text, some buttons, and etc. So let's look into how we're going to use this and like bring this into our application. So this is just a few examples, so you can look more in the documentation. So you're gonna see a lot more components there. But yeah, let's try to look into this. So in our entry point for creating composables, it's still our activity. So the activity system is still here, but what we want to focus on is the set content function. So this here, we're just saying, hey, I want some content. I want you to use this theme, and then I can create on composing. So we're going to be talking about theming as well later on. So first, let's just focus on this. So let's say I want to add the text to it, like one text. I just want to say text. So I can just use the text composable and just invoke that. Hey, I want the text. I want it to have a text of text. And now, it's easy to use Jetpack Compose like this. It's very declarative and it's very simple. So what we don't have, or rather, what we want to do is we want to see how this looks like. We don't want to keep on deploying this to our device. We want to see how this looks like while we're developing it, right? So with XML layouts, we have our layout editor, but with Compose, we have our preview. So before I start making the preview, what I want to do is I want to extract this into a composable. So I'm making a demo composable using that in my content. And by extracting this allows us to reuse it. And since I can reuse this, I can make a preview for this. So I can make another composable, but this time annotating it with that preview annotation. And this would tell our editor to, this would say to our editor that, hey, I want to see this. I want to see how this looks like. And it would show us this. So now we can see how our content looks like. Okay, we have a text. It says text. So what else can you do with the preview? You can see that there are two buttons above it, right? So those are actually two helpful buttons for developing UI. So one is that you can run it in an emulator. So you can run a specific composable in an emulator without having to deploy your whole app. So that's pretty neat, right? If you have a big app, you can just deploy one specific view and test how it plays out. What else? The other button is the interactive mode. So the interactive mode lets you interact with your composable without even deploying it to the device. So that's really nice because like we know how expensive an emulator is. So imagine having to spin it up every time just to test and test. And if you have a long build time, it's gonna eat up a lot in your development time. And they've been giving us the tools to make compose easier. So yeah, okay. So yeah, okay, there's preview. It's easy to make components. So let's go back and try to add more components. So I've added the text. What if I now want a button? And then I can just use the button composable. And here I just have to provide my on-click argument, what happens when I click on it, and how the button would look like. And I'm saying that the button should just have a text of button. So since we've configured the preview earlier, now our preview would look like this. And then we can see the button, right? So it's that simple, just make the preview, update your composable, you're gonna see it. So, okay, we have a text and the button. So, but what's wrong here? So, yeah, we have two components. We have the text and the button, but why am I only just seeing the button? So now this would though lead us to layouts. So we know how to build components. Now we have to position those components in a good way. So for the building blocks of layouts, we have these things. So we have a column, we have a row, and a box. So it's pretty simple. The column just positions your components in a vertical manner. The row positions it in a horizontal manner, and the box just stacks each component on top of each other. So if you know how to use these in mind, you can already build a lot of things without even using more advanced APIs like Scaffold, which is what we're going to look at later. So okay. So they're not being displayed correctly. Now I want to display them in a vertical manner. What do I have to do? It's easy. I just have to put it inside the column. And then now, I'm going to see that my components are stacked vertically. What if I want this to be positioned horizontally? I just change column to a row. And now it's, positioned, it's positioned horizontally. And, it's this easy so that you can just nest columns and rows and change it to how you want it. So let's try to go back into the screen earlier and let's try to make this screen using Jetpack Compose. So it's simple. We have a toolbar, we have some text, they're kind of lined evenly on the screen. There's a floating action button right on the bottom end or bottom right. So, okay. So the first thing I do is I add those components into my column. So aside from the text the button, app bar, I put out the configurations for it. I add my text button, outline button, card, and my bottom app bar. So now this would give us this UI. So okay, I have my components stacked vertically, but we want it, I'm just going to omit that for brevity. So now what we want is to put like a background to it. So how do we configure that this to have a background? And this is where I introduce the concept of modifiers. So here I'm just adding a box, and then I'm just saying I want to have a modifier of background, a background modifier of white. So the modifiers are ways to configure our UI in Compose. So if in XML, we have attributes, right? So we have like in HTML, we have those attributes, right? So with Compose, we're going to use modifiers. So we can configure padding, we can configure margin, background, so on and so forth. So I just said I wanted to have a background color of white. So now it has a background color of white. So the next thing we want to do is we want to configure the size. So we want it to like occupy our whole screen. So how do we do that? We use another modifier called fill max size. And now this would configure your composable to like fill up the whole screen. And it's easy. Just do some stuff like this: fill maximum size, fill maximum width, height. It's like our XML attributes as well, but it's in a more declarative manner, and it's much easier to configure your UI. So okay, now I want to lay out it like this. So if we see earlier, like these are just cramped up on the top of the screen, right? Now I want my components to like occupy the whole screen. So here, I can just add more configurations to my column. So it's easy to set their positions as well. So we have a vertical arrangement and horizontal alignment argument here. And I'm just saying, hey, I want the vertical arrangement to have some space in between. So what does that mean? It means that I want some space between my toolbar and my text. I want some space between my text and my button and my text button, and so forth. So which is why we can see that they're evenly spaced across the screen. And, it's just one line of change. And for the alignment, I'm just saying that, hey, I want to center this horizontally. And now it's aligned horizontally. So it's easy to configure your UI. You just have to you just have to get used to the arguments that you can configure with Compose. So okay, the last thing we want to add in the screen is have our floating action button. So now it's on top of the bottom bar. We can't put this inside the column because then this would now get rendered below the bottom app bar, right? So what we're gonna do is, since this is inside the box, I want to lay it out on top of this. So I'm going to add a box below, and I want that box to have a floating action button. So, okay, why did I use a box? And that's because I can set the alignment to it. I'm gonna say, hey, I want your content to be aligned at the bottom end. I want you to have a padding of 16 dips. So, and that's why the floating action button would be rendered at the bottom of the screen. So there we go. So we just created this UI with, using boxes, using columns. We didn't use a row, but the row is essentially just like a column, just in a different orientation. So yeah, this is what you can do with layouting and the components. So now let's look at an easier way, which is using the Scaffold API. So the Scaffold is Material Design's basic layout, and it would basically do the same thing that we did earlier. So in here, this is kind of like a slot-based API where I say, hey, I want your top app bar to be like this. I want your bottom app bar to be like this. I want your background to be white, so on and so forth. So this is much easier. So you don't have to like focus on like positioning your layouts. You just have to focus on like what the components is, right? But I just wanted to show it earlier that, if you kind of get the foundation, if you have the foundation in using boxes, rows, and columns, you can pretty much do anything and position it in any way you want. So it's that easy to use Compose, and we have more better APIs to make it easier. So pick your poison, use what you want to use. There are tools available for us. So okay, we have positions, we have components, we can position them. Now let's look into a more classic use case for Android apps. So there are lists everywhere, right? So we have a list, our Facebook feed as a list, our YouTube videos as a list. We have a list of emails, so on and so forth, right? So lists are almost in every app, and this is one of the essentials in Android development. So, okay, for this example, I'm just gonna have this contact screen. So it's pretty simple. I have my contacts, I have a header, and you can see that the header is kind of sticking. So when I go to the next grouping, it changes the header. So in the current view system, this is kind of hard to implement and it's tedious. We're gonna see how this is in Compose. So in the current view system, you have a lot of stuff to do. So first, you're gonna have to have your layouts. So you have a recycler view, you have your header layout, you have your item layout. Next thing you have to do is you have to bind that to your activity. You have to let your recycler view use a list adapter. You have to make your list adapter generate the item layout. And there's just a lot of things that you have to tie up. And for an experienced developer, this is kind of basic. But if you're new to it, it looks pretty daunting because like you're going to be touching on a lot of different areas, and just so that you can make all of those, just so you can make a list. So with Compose, this is much easier. And yeah, let's dive right into the code. So to start, let's just make our data model for a contact. We have a name and a phone number. And this is what we're going to translate into UI. So okay, let's create our contact item composable. So here I have a row. So there's my row. Inside that row, I have a column. So my column is this. So it's just two text stacked on top of each other. So I have my name and my phone number. And here I have my icon button. So pretty simple. Next, I want my header. So my header, again, is just a column. And here I have my text for the initial, and I just have a divider here, which you can see, but this is the divider would be shown later. Okay. So, okay, how do we display those contacts into a list? So here I just made a dummy list of contacts. So these are just random names and random phone numbers. And this is how we can make that into a list. So you don't need to do any binding. What we just want to do is we want to do a for each on that list of contacts and say for each of those contacts, I want to generate a contact item. And that's it. Now we have the screen. No recycler view binding, no list adapter, generating your layouts. You just need to have your data and you need to have your composable and tell compose that, hey, I want to generate a composable for each of those items. And now we have our list. So this is pretty much it, right? So let's try to add our header. So how can we add headers? So yeah, now I added more code. It seems kind of daunting. So here I added my here I sorted the contact. So I want it to be alphabetically arranged. And here what I'm doing is I'm just grouping those contacts by their first letter. So I want to group those contacts by their first letter. So names that start with letter A, names that start with letter B, and I want to retrieve those later on. So here I'm just, again, making a for loop. So I'm doing a for each for those group contacts. I'm going to get the letter of the grouping and then the contacts inside that grouping. So, and then I'm just going to generate my header for that, passing in over the letter, and then I'm looping again over the contacts and generating an item. So with that, now we have this. So again, no binding, no recycler views, no list adapters. It's just simple for each. You just need to have your data. You need to do some list manipulations, and now we have this wonderful contacts list screen. Like we have a header, and now we have our contact items. So what's wrong with this? So here, you can see that there's a circle going there. So that's me trying to scroll over the screen. And you can see that nothing's happening. I've been laying out the contacts, but I can't scroll. So I won't be able to interact with this and see the list at the bottom. So what we have to do is we just have to add the modifier to it. And now you can see that this now makes the column scrollable. So I just added this vertical scroll modifier, and this allows me to have the scroll gesture on my list. So okay, now we have our list. So but again, what's wrong with this? So so with the column, what's actually happening here is that it's generating everything that you put inside over it. So let's say we have like 100 contacts over here. In our screen, we're only going to be able to see like maybe 10 or even less. So would you want to generate all of those 100 contacts without even needing to see them? So that's kind of inefficient. That would take up your memory. That would take up a lot of resources, even though you're not yet supposed to see them. So to solve this, they already provided another API, and that's just by changing their column to a lazy column. So with the lazy column, this would generate our components whenever it's going to be shown on the screen. And you don't have to put your vertical scroll modifier. It handles that as well. So yeah, so there are two things over here. It's a lazy column, and then there's this items function here. So there's this items function I'm passing in over the contacts, and this is the function that would actually handle the lazy generation of your contacts. And you don't have to worry about lazily generating them. This API would handle it for you. So this is super easy to use. And if you want your header to be sticky, you just have to use the sticky header function, and now it's sticky without you even doing any handling over it. So they're gonna be doing this for you. The APIs are provided, and you can see in the recording that the headers are sticking, and now we have our contacts list. So it's pretty easy, right? It's super easy to use lists. So there we go, lists. You can this is a pretty basic example. You can go ahead and try it on your own, make more crazy examples, crazy and prettier examples. But yeah, generating lists, it's much easier in Compose rather than with the recycler view system. Okay, so now let's talk about state. So what is state? So this is their definition. So state in an app is any value that can change over time. As they said, it's a very broad definition. It can be anything from like a room database or maybe a variable or something. But yeah, to explain this better, I would like to use this example. So here I have a screen. I have an error view. So there's a retry button over it, and when I retry it, it kind of just loads the API and says that the API was successfully loaded. So to me, the state is something that tells the screen that, hey, the screen has an error, or hey, the screen is successful. And that state would be our identifier to show the correct composable or the correct UI. So, okay, let's let the code speak for itself again, and let's see how states are. So first, let's lay out our composable. I have my error view over here. It's in the column. I have my icon. I have my text. And then I have my button. So, okay, I have that. And that's my whole code. Now, how do I add state to this? How do I tell this that it should generate a successful view or an error view? So I'm going to omit that for brevity. And here I'm adding a state. So here I said API has error. It's remembering a mutable state of a Boolean, which is right now true. So here we have this object called mutable state of. And this is an object in the compose system. And basically, this is where we handle our states. So it's also an observable in compose. And what this would do is that it would trigger recompositions whenever this value changes. So if your state changes to true, it would trigger a recomposition for this composable and generate it accordingly. So, okay, we have an observable, we can change that value, and it would change the UI depending on that value. But what's this statement, which is this remember block? So here, I'm just trying to tell Compose that, hey, I want you to remember the value of this state. Because if we trigger a recomposition, this would run this code, right? So if we don't remember the value, this would always just get initialized to true. So if we change this to false and we don't remember the value, it's always going to be true. So this is just a simple statement telling Compose, I want you to remember the changes in this state. And now I have this state. How do I use this? So simple. I just use a simple if else. So if the API error value is true, then generate the column composable or generate the error view composable. If not, then show me a text saying the API was successfully loaded. So okay. And then here I'm just trying to configure the button click to change the API error to false when it's clicked. So it's kind of like a fake implementation of loading. So at start it has an error. When you click it, there's no error. But yeah, it simulates that the API is loaded successfully. So now that we have this is already our retry screen. So okay, that's how you use states. So, but what else? So what's wrong with this? So of course, there's always something wrong. So what's wrong with this is that the state is owned by this component. So the state lives inside this component, meaning this component isn't reusable. So what if I want another API call? So right now I have an API 1. What if I have an API 2? And I want to use the same component for that, and I want to have different retry operations for it. So should I make another error handler? Should I make an error handler for API 2? So that's not good, right? The one purpose of making composable is making them reusable. So to do that, what we're gonna do is use a programming pattern called state hoisting, which is basically extracting the state out of this composable to make it configurable. So instead of having the state live inside, we're going to have the state get passed onto it. So we're passing parameters to it. So here I have the has error being passed, and I'm going to use that in my if else. The retry click handling is also passed from outside, and that's going to be passed to the button. And I'm going to generate the content based on what it needs to be generated. Again, from an outside perspective. So okay, let's try to use that in another screen. So I have my API fetching screen over here. I have my state, which is what we had earlier, API error, and there we go. What I'm doing is I'm just using that specific composable. I'm passing in the value of the state. I'm telling what it's going to do when the retry button is clicked, and I'm telling it the content that it should generate if there's no error. So okay, why do I have to do this? Now this makes our composable reusable. So if I have another API call, I can just make another API call. So here I have my API 2 has error, and I'm going to use it in another error handler that's completely separate from the API 1 handling. So I can just reuse this in different API calls, and reuse this in every component, and yeah, that's the goal, to make your components reusable. So now, here in our example, we can see, oops, we can see that, I have two components that are separate from each other, and they're doing both of their things. And it's a completely usable component with states. So yeah, this is another, again, a simple example. So what else can you use with states for? So you can use it for, let's say, text field. Let's say you want to have different validations for your text field. So you have to extract the states for those, have separate validations for each state, or for each composable rather, for each text field. And what else? You can have maybe a counter. You have to extract the state over that. And yeah, but that state. So it's what tells our app how it should be. In this case, it what tells our composables if it should show an error, or if it should show the success content. So yeah, you could read more into states. It's a crucial thing that you should know when dealing with Jetpack Compose. It might be kind of a paradigm shift to some, but yeah, we have to figure out how to use states. So there we go, states. So we've been able to lay out components. We've been able to position them. We've been able to make them work via states. Now let's try to make our app pretty. Let's try to make our app prettier with theming. Okay, let's go into theming. And okay, for this example or section, let's just look into this card. So it's a beautiful card. It's kind of like an article, and let's try to make this pretty. So we can change font, we can change the colors, we can change the shape, and just by doing this, it adds a whole lot more a different attitude to the default one, right? And it's much prettier, and it's much more enticing for users. And we can also add dark theme support. So these two are much more better than the default one, right? And this is what we want in our apps. We want to make them work, but we also want to make them pretty. So how are we going to do this with theming? So earlier I've shown this set content function, right? And it's using this compose demo theme function. So what is that compose demo theme? So the compose demo theme is actually just a function, and it's just a composable. So everything is just a composable. And what's happening here is that I'm just passing some parameters to it. So something that tells it to use dark mode or not. And by default, it's using the system settings. And I just want to pass in the content that I want to generate using this theme. So I'm using the material theme, which is another tool given by the Jetpack Compose team. So here, the material theme is based on the material design guidelines, and we can pass in how we want to configure the theme based on our configurations. So I can set the color. There's some logic to it. So if it's a dark theme, use the dark color. If it's not, use the light color. You can set typography, change your fonts. You can change the shape, just like we did earlier. There's a cut on the card. And lastly, you just have to give it your content. So based on my theme configurations, I want you to generate this content. So let's try configuring our colors and see how it looks like. So with material guidelines, this is our default configuration for the color scheme. So with the color scheme, we need to have like a primary color, a primary variant of it, and a secondary color. We need to configure what our background is, our surface is, what the text should be on primary, what the text color should be on secondary, so on and so forth. And basically, it's just configurations, and just have to tell Compose what to do. So let's go into something simpler. Let's try to make to implement this in the example. So here I'm just declaring that, hey, I have a blue color, and I'm using the color what do you call this? The color object or class, and I'm just passing in a hex value. So okay, I have the color blue. So now how do I put this into my theme? I'm just gonna put it in another variable, and I'm gonna use the light colors helper. And here I'm just saying, hey, I want my primary color to be blue. I want my secondary color to be blue, and I want the others to be like black and white. So we've seen earlier in the code that this is configured, right? So now we're gonna see that our code is now like this. So we can see that it's still kind of pretty basic, but we've seen that the color is changed. And just by changing those parameters, just by changing them, it's so easy to make different color themes and such. So okay, let's try to make the dark theme palette. Here I just, the same thing we did earlier. I added two colors this time. I added green and dark blue. And instead of using light colors, I'm using dark colors. And again, configuring each argument as such. So the primary is green, secondary is dark blue. So now we're gonna have this screen. So now this has a whole lot more attitude than what we had earlier. So okay, there we go. So this is configured for the colors, and it's that easy. So you just have to find the right colors for your own app. What's your own branding? How do you want it to look like? And just set in the colors, set the primary color, set the secondary color, and you have your colors already themed. So next, typography. So typography, the font plays a lot actually in how your app would look like. And here are some the guidelines for typography. So they have different configurations for, like, let's say headline, for subtitles, and um, what else? You have your body, your button, your captions. So these are also configurable. So to configure this, here I'm creating this font family object, and I'm just using this font called Nunito, and let's look into that later. So here I have my Nunito font family here, and now I can just create my typography object, and here I can just style each and every text style over here, and I'm just saying, hey, I want the heading one to have a font family of Nunito, and I want its font weight to be bold. So what's gonna happen here is that it's going to look into the font family, which is Nunito, and since I told it that it's going to use bold, it's going to use Nunito bold as the font, since that's what we declared earlier in declaring that font family. So you can do that same configuration in the other headlines, but there's another configuration here, which is the body. So here it's the same thing. I'm saying I want you to use Nunito, but this time I want you to use a normal font weight. So this would again look into the font family object and look for the font that's configured for a normal weight. And in this case, that font is Nunito regular. So again, this is all you need. You just have to configure all of these, and now we're gonna have this UI. So we change the color, we change the the typography rather, the font, and it's already turning out much nicer than the default one. So how you can see that the text here, they have different styles. So how do we configure the text? So it's actually pretty easy. So if you have your text object, these are actually just configured via the style argument or the style parameter, and we can say, hey, I want this text to have a style of H6. I want this to have a style of caption, and I want this to be a body. I want this to be a button. And this would just use the material theme configurations that you use. So you just have to configure it once, and then now this would take on full effect inside your app. And yeah, it's that easy to change typography. And the last thing we can theme is shapes. So there's a lot of things you could do with shape theming. You can have rounded corners, you can cut the corners, and basically it depends again on how you want your app to look like. So, and yeah, just like the first two theme objects, we have a shapes object. And here I can configure small objects, medium objects, and large objects or components. And you can have rounded corners, just like for the small object. And I'm just saying, hey, I want you to have a rounded corner shape. I want it to be rounded by 50%. So you can use dips as well. Again, it depends on how you want it to look like. Or you can cut the corners. So in this example, I'm just cutting the top left and the bottom right. So which is why I configured the top start and bottom end to have 16 dips, but the others to have 0. So you can go crazy. You can have like something that's asymmetrical. You can have something that's symmetrical. Maybe one cut is larger than the other. Maybe it's the same on all sides. So yeah, you can go crazy and like figure out what theming works out for you. And yeah, you just have to do this, and it works for your app. So this is how it looks like in dark theme. And there we go. We already have a themed app. So okay, we've made our app pretty. Let's make it even better. So how are we going to do animations or compose? So animations are like kind of tedious in the current system. So you have to use, I guess, property and object property animators. You have to deal with callbacks and such. I always find it daunting to make animations. And let's see how animations are in Compose. So let's start with something simple. Let's try animating a color. Okay, I have the screen, I have a column, I have two buttons. So the column is using a background color. Right now it's set to white. When I click on the buttons, it's going to change the colors to green or dark blue, depending on which button you click. Okay, so it's pretty simple. I can click it. Okay, the color changes. but I want to have a sort of animation to it and make it seem like it's nice. So to do that, you actually just need one line. So they have this function called animate color as state, and I'm just passing the color over it. And okay, I have that animated state. I'm just going to use that in my background modifier, and that's just it. One line, and you have your animation. So you can see when I click it, there's some sort of fade to it, right? So it's this easy to make animations and compose. Just one extra line for your state, and that's it. You have your animations. So okay, what else? I can animate colors. Can I animate size? Of course we can. So how can we animate size? So another example here, I have a box. Um, what's happening in this box? So I have this state. I have the state that's telling the screen that hey, I want the box to be small or not, and the size is being configured depending on the state. So if the size is small, it's going to be size at 128 dips. If not, it's going to be at 256 dips. And the modifier is just using that state. And when I click on the button, it just inverts the value from small to not small, and then not small to small. So okay, and here's what it looks like. You can see that it's getting smaller, big, and it's snapping. And it doesn't look nice because it's just it's like a 1 to 0 movement, and it's just snapping, and it just doesn't look nice. So let's make this nice. So just like we did earlier, we said animate color as state, right? Now we can use animate DP as state. And here we go. Another line, and we're gonna have another animation from this example. So I pass in the value of the size over it. I said I want to animate it. I use it in my modifier. And now here we go. Did I run this video? Not yet. There we go. And you can see that now it's animating as I click it. And it's much nicer to see this it's just much nicer to see this, right? So you can see it's animating. There's some motion happening. It's kind of telling our eyes what's going to happen. And it's much, much nicer than having something snap from one state to another. So okay, I can animate colors, I can animate sizes. What if I want to animate multiple values? So okay, we have it's the same example. It's our example that's animating the size. So if I want to animate another value, easy. I just have to copy paste this and have another state. So okay, I added this. I added this as blue state. I'm changing the color based on the state. I'm animating it using animate color like we did earlier. And in my on click function, I'm just changing both of those states. So okay, yeah, this would work. You can have the desired thing you want with this code, but let's say you want to animate 5 things at once. Does that mean you're gonna have 5 states copy pasted here? So one state for another. Are you gonna make those 5 times? And at this scale, it's just 2 parameters. It's okay, but think about it in like that number, 5 or maybe 10. It's kind of tedious, right? So to help us do this, they provided the transition API, and here we can just make animations based on one state. So you don't have to make multiple states. You can base it off of one state. So here I'm creating the transition. I'm saying, hey, I want an update transition based on the small state. And from that transition, I can make animations. So I can say, hey, I want you to animate the dips. So if it's small, it's 128. If it's big, it's 256. And same with the color. So I want to animate the color to dark blue if it's small, and to green if it's big. And you just have to change one state. You don't have to manage a lot of states. And here we go. You can see that it's animating. It's animating both the size and now the color. So okay, what else? Okay, it's animating both of those things, but I don't know about you, but when I saw this, it seems like to me that the animation for the color isn't highlighted that much, and I kind of can't appreciate how it's being animated. So what I can do is I can also change the animations for a specific transition. So here, I'm changing the transition for the color. So here, I'm just saying I wanted to have a tween of 500. So I don't know what the tween is, but basically what's happening here is it's giving a duration of 500 milliseconds in the animation. And you can see here that, the animation is much, much more visible. And yeah, you can figure your animations to how you want them. So there are others like spring, if you want your size to like be bouncy. if you want it to be like tight, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's possible, and you can do a lot with animations, and it's so easy. Okay, what else? So we animated multiple values. One common use case is by animating visibility. So going back to the example earlier, we have this screen, right? So um, when we click retry, the success content pops up. So right now there's no animation to it. How do we add animation? Again, it's super easy. We have to just to change like a line. So instead of using this if else block, we can use animated visibility. And what this would do is we're just gonna pass a boolean value to it, and if that value is true, it's going to it's going to show your component or hide if it's false. And not just that, but it would animate it without you having to do anything. So just by adding this, so this is our component right now. So when we try to click on it, you can see that there's already some animation that's happening. And what did we do? We just have to change that if else component. Um, and that's it. Now you have your animations. So you can also configure the exit and enter transitions. So you can see right now that the component is kind of sliding from the right. If you don't want that, you can add your own transition, maybe a fade, maybe sliding from the top. So yeah, everything's configurable, everything's easy. So what else? You can also animate content sizes. So in our card earlier, I was showing kind of like an article, right? So right now it's just truncated to like 4 lines. So what if you want to show everything? So in this example, I have a state. I have this expanded state. I'm making the card clickable. So if I click on the card, I'm going to invert the expanded value. So from expanded to not expanded and vice versa. And here on the text, I'm just configuring the maximum lines that it's going to show. So if I'm expanded, I want you to show everything by specifying the maximum value for integer. And if not, I just want you to like cut it into 4 lines. So okay, when I click this, what's going to happen is like our content size, our box size being changed earlier. It's going to be like a 1 to 0 and like it's bad. What if I want to animate this? Easy. I can just add one line saying, hey, I want you to animate the size of this column. So just by adding that line, this is what our app would look like. So it's very nice, like, right? So like, you can keep on adding these animations. It's super simple to use them. You can go crazy with them. It's not as complex as, the current animation system we have right now. So, okay, what did we do? Like we have components, we laid them out, we made them work with states, we made them pretty with theming and animations. So the last thing we want to do is make sure they're working. So we want to add testing to our app and make sure that it's verified and it works. So there we go. So here we're gonna use this example, and again, it's our simple error handling composable. And what we just want to do is that we want to verify that when I click the retry button, it's gonna load my API. So okay, that's gonna be pretty simple. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create this test. So here I have this compose test rule. So this just tells the test that, hey, I'm testing something on compose. So that's just it. So next, I'm adding my test case. Whenever I retry, when I click on the retry button, it should load the API. So it's pretty simple. And here I'm going to set up my screen. So in this test, I want you to set the content to my API fetching screen. And that's it. So I'm going to setting up the screen, and I'm going to perform the action. So it's easy to find components in tests. So I'm just saying here, on the node with text of retry, so I'm looking for the retry button. I want it to perform a click. So I'm performing a click action on that button. So, okay. So after I click the button, what's next? I'm going to perform my assertion. I'm looking for the text. So on node with text, API 1 was successfully loaded. I want to assert that this is displayed. So this is a super simple test. I'm just, looking for the button. I'm trying to click it. And then I'm going to see what happens next after clicking it, which is, to look for the API was successfully loaded text and assert that it's displayed. So you can add another test maybe saying that, the retry button shouldn't be displayed anymore. So yeah, it's so easy to make tests. So if you try to run this in your IDE, this is how it looks like. So there we go. That's me running the test. It's going to get deployed to my emulator. And we can see that the emulator or the app should be tested. So there we go. It clicked and it performed the assertion really quickly. So there we go. So you can test your apps as well. So this is just the tip of the iceberg on testing. So testing is at least for me, it was hard at first. So there's a lot more concepts in testing and a lot more APIs with Compose. It's I guess it would be much more complex if you're testing lists, or maybe what if you have two retry buttons. So you would have to take into account for those. But what matters is testing is available in Compose. So there we go. So yeah, so just to summarize, so yeah, we talked about components, we've positioned them, we've made lists, we've made them work with states, we've made them pretty with theming and animation, and we've verified them through testing. So yeah, so that's with Jetpack Compose. It's a complete UI toolkit. It's in beta. And you can do a lot with it already. So you could go end to end from making your components to having it verified that it's working. So there we go. Um, so yeah, so thank you. That's Compose. If you've made it here, thank you, and I hope I didn't make you fall asleep. So that's Jetpack Compose. This is a tip of the iceberg. There's way a lot more. You can go crazy and check out examples and try to implement them yourselves. But yeah, Jetpack Compose. So I guess now it's time for Q&A section, or yeah.
All right, cool. So thank you so much, Sir Kurt, for sharing us your knowledge when it comes to this modern toolkit of Android. So let's go ahead and have our Q&A. So first one that we have here, are there any performance differences between Jetpack Compose and XML-based layouts?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So yeah, one of the reasons on why I'm still not using it is actually that. So I didn't really measure, but I tried it out on my samples, and I can see that the lists are kind of still laggy a bit. So and yeah, that's one of the focuses right now. So like I said earlier when I started, in the alpha release, they tried to solidify the APIs and like how we're going to use the APIs, and now that's it's solid. Now in the beta phase, what we're trying to focus now is on performance, bug fixes, and trying to promote it to stable. So yeah, there are some different performance differences in it. So it's fairly new tool. For sure, it's not yet that mature. So you're gonna see some slight differences. Maybe some aspects are faster, maybe some aspects are slower. Um, but yeah, there would be differences between it. For me, my experience would be mostly on the lists, especially if it's a long list. It's kind of getting laggy. But yeah, with normal components, it should be fine. But yeah, um, you can still try it out on your own. You can do your own measurements. But yeah, there would be performance differences, at least in the space.
Okay. All right, got it. Thank you. So, another question that we have here is that do you think it's easier to learn about Jetpack Compose if you have some background with Flutter?
Actually, I think it would be much easier if you have some background in Flutter. So Flutter already have um, this style. So back in the our current view system, it's a different paradigm. So if you started in Flutter, you're already kind of accustomed to that paradigm. So it kind of has the same what do you call this concepts behind it. There's there's stateless components, stateful components, right? I'm not really familiar with Flutter, but I know it's kind of like that. And Jetpack Compose is kind of moving towards that as well. So if you have those concepts in mind already, um, it would be easier to transition to Jetpack Compose. So for me, I had a hard time because like I've been living with this view system paradigm for so long, and like I had to like learn like what is this, what's state, why do I need state, like what is this, like I've been used to constraint layouts, now I have to use columns and rows. So but yeah, it's a paradigm shift if you're coming from Android. But once you get to learn it, it's actually quite easy. So if you're from Flutter, this would actually be so much easier. So yeah, and also I think iOS already has this pattern as well, which is Swift UI. So if you're in Flutter, you're kind of you're hitting those as well. So you can go fully native with Swift and Kotlin if you want to learn about Jetpack Compose.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think we have a follow-up question. For the first question asked, they also
Mm-hmm.
support different screen sizes, layout. Yeah, for
Yeah,
the first
that I
question
haven't.
about
Uh,
Jetpack Compose and XML.
mhm. Yeah, that I haven't really touched on about. But as far as I know, the layouts are still gonna be responsive. I'm just not sure on like how we're gonna configure the different screen sizes yet. So I haven't gotten to there yet. Um, for sure there might be resources online, and I'm sure this has been something that the team has been developing in mind. So there are a lot of different Android devices. We have Android TVs, we have Android Auto, we have tablets and phones, and they're foldables right now. So I'm pretty sure there's support to it, but yeah, I think there's support, but I'm not really sure as I haven't really dived into it. So you can go ahead and like do a quick Google search. I'm sure there are, especially that there's a wide array of Android devices that we have out here. So it would be like not ideal if they made Compose without that in mind. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think we have the last question. So you've pretty much mentioned the different advantages and how Jetpack Compose simplifies things for devs. But let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about the downsides. Okay, what are the disadvantages of Jetpack Compose?
Disadvantages, huh? That's quite hard to answer because I think there are no disadvantages. So yeah, when I tried out Jetpack Compose, everything was like really an advantage. Like, what? This is all I need. I was doing something way much more complex before, and then, like, everything is just an advantage. It's easier to make it. It's easier to use it. Um, and so far I don't think there are disadvantages. I guess in this phase there would be disadvantages. Like, for example, performance. So it's not really it's performant, but not really that performant yet. At least in my case, I might have wrong measurements. Just a quick disclaimer. That might be one disadvantage. But yeah, that's just in this phase. But when Compose is stable, I don't think there's any disadvantage to it. Again, another disadvantage, but again in this phase would be, I guess, migration. So if you're in the current view system, you'd have to relearn another technology, right? You have to relearn Compose. So you have to transition, and that transition might be a disadvantage because you're gonna be gathering more expertise on the topic as well, and you're gonna have to think about migrating your current app to Compose. But I guess that's just the only disadvantage I can think of. But whenever I used it, it just made the development experience much happier and much more enjoyable. So yeah, I think it's moving towards the right direction, and there are a lot of disadvantages in the current view system right now, which is being fixed by Jetpack Compose. So yeah, I'm not right now. I'm not aware of any disadvantages right now. Everything's pointing towards, I don't know, towards happiness and development in Android.
All right. Thanks for sharing that, Kurt. I think we have one more question from the viewers. So, how
Mhm.
can I get started with Compose?
Okay. Yeah. So the Compose team has been doing a lot in like trying to advocate for this. So you can go to YouTube and go to the Android developers channel. I actually just learned from there as well. So they have different topics there. So basically what I showed right now, which is layouts, lists, theming, testing. So they have screencasts over there that show and demonstrate what Compose is. So you can go and check those out. So if you want to read more, they also have this documentation. If you go to developer.android.com, there's actually a section for Compose itself. So you can go and check that out. And there's a lot of things from Compose over there. So basically what I tried to talk about here as well. So layouts, theming, state and data, so on and so forth. But they have more details over there. You can read through them, and just have to spend time learning them. And yeah, there are a lot of available resources online: Medium articles, YouTube videos, um, the documentations and such. So yeah, everything's like with a quick Google search, you can go and check out those resources.
All right, great. Thank you so much again, Sir Kurt. Maybe most likely I'll check those resources as well later on. Now, anyway, again, thank you. For
Yeah,
sure,
thank you for
never
having me.
not. I know you guys learned something from this session. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, okay, thanks. All right. So for sure, never not again. Definitely, you guys learned something from that session with Sir Kurt all about Jetpack Compose. Now, who's with me? Please comment down below. Okay, and go ahead, share this stream to your friends. Use the hashtags hashtag GDG Philippines, hashtag Android, hashtag Google Cloud, hashtag Google Technologies, and of course, just spread the love for learning as we're about to proceed to our next speaker. Okay? So, if you are a one man dev team, especially for Google Technologies, the next talk will definitely entice you. Joining us next is a Google developer expert for cloud and machine learning. He's also the founder of Symph.co and the chief technology officer. It's a design, development, and startup studio. At Symph, he has architected and developed solutions for 500 startups, Office of the President of the Philippines, and the World Bank. Aside from being a developer, he's also an entrepreneur who's worked on consumer enterprise, and government software products. Everyone, let's welcome Sir Albert Padin on the screen.
Hi everyone.
Hi. Go ahead, sir.
So,
Thank you.
sir, do I just like go start get started right away? Okay, I guess it's my turn. Hi
Yep, you
everyone.
can go
Thank you
ahead
for Sure. Okay, thank you for joining this live
and
stream.
start your session. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, today I'll be talking about Google Cloud and App Engine. So, but before I dive into that, I just want to say that the introduction it says that I architected for 500 startups. So, for those of you who don't know, 500 startups is the name of a venture capital firm or an accelerator. That's the name of their company, 500 startups. So it's not literally like 500 startups, but we've done solutions for over 100 clients though, so I hope maybe that kind of counts. All right, enough about me. Let's talk about App Engine, and the title of this talk is how you can use App Engine as a solo developer. Now, I don't have slides. I prefer to just go through demos and going live. So pros and cons. Pro is that we're gonna have a lot of fun and you're gonna see like how to actually do it. The cons, disadvantages is I might run into some issues sometimes, and you'll have to like cross your fingers, pray for me, and channel your energy to the monitor so that the demos actually work and I don't take so much time. But there may be also times where it will get stuck, and you feel free to ask questions during those moments because I will answer those questions during times where things are loading or I'm waiting for things to happen. So let's get started. So again, um, let's go to the Google Cloud website. So before, how do I do this demos? I go to google.com, and just like you, I just search in Google. So I type here google.com, I type here Google Cloud. So I hit enter, and ta-da, there's many things here. I tend to avoid the ads. I don't know about you, but then I then click on Google Cloud over here. First result, great. So things that interest me is that new customers get $300 in free credits. Awesome. Now I'm not a new customer anymore, but if you haven't tried Google Cloud yet, then you will count as a new customer, so you can get $300 in free credits. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to click on this thing called products over here, and you'll quickly notice that there are a lot of Google Cloud products. In fact, these are just the categories on the left side. So AI and machine learning, these are all products, API management, compute, and so on. And we're going to use something called App Engine. So it's over here. It's called serverless applications, serverless application platform for apps and backend. So we're gonna do that. Let me just draw your attention over here. It says see all products over 100. So there's a lot. Okay, I don't know everything, but let's click on this App Engine thing, and we're taking to the App Engine marketing page, and so you can see all the things over here. And so what's with App Engine? Well, you can scale your applications from 0 to planet scale. In other words, really, really, really big, without having to manage infrastructure. I love that part. Free up your developers with zero server management and zero configuration deployments. So I will demo that as well. And you can use it with popular development languages and a range of developer tools. So I've used this with Python, I've used this with Go, I've used this with Java, I've used this with JavaScript Node. And there are other languages also supported by App Engine, which I haven't used. Maybe you can try those. Okay, and the one thing I really like about this is that it has a pay only for what you use model, Right. Now, enough about marketing. Let's do some demos. So what I usually click is I go to google.com again, and then I type App Engine Node Quick Start. So that's one way. And then you can see a top result over here. Wow, that's Chinese. I don't know why that's Chinese. But anyway, this one, Quick Start for Node.js in the standard environment. So I go ahead and click that. And there's a tutorial. So we're just going to go ahead and follow that. Best part of this is there are no costs associated with running this guide. Awesome. Okay, so before you begin, let's go to the Google Cloud Console and select or create a Google Cloud project. So let's open that. I'm going to open a new tab over here, and I'm going to type console.cloud.google.com. You can do that, or you can click this button over here. It goes to the same page. So it's essentially the same thing. All right. So yeah, so this is like the dashboard. So we go over here and we can create a project. I'm just going to close this one. Create a project on the upper right. Let me make this screen bigger. There you go. So create a project. And I'll call this, what should we call this? App Engine Demo Awesome. Let's see that. Okay, maybe let's call this something more. Let's call this GCP Pinas. I don't know if this is the right event name. GCP Pinas. There you go. GCP Pinas. Billing account. That's on my company. Haha. But remember, this is for free, so we're not worrying about that. Let's press create. And now it's creating this project. So it's doing this loading thing. And also on the upper right, you can see that it is creating the project. So now that it's created that, let's go select a project. And this is now the dashboard. This is the dashboard for your Google Cloud Console for this project, where you can see everything about your, you kind of have your command center for this project. So let's go back to our guide, and let's click here and say, first thing is make sure that billing is enabled for your cloud project. I already have that because I've set it up. If you haven't, you have to set that up on your own. And then next is enable the cloud billing API. So we can then just go ahead and click that, and it should open the Cloud Build API. We can also go over here and type here Cloud Build. You should be able to see that, right? So it's the same thing over here. Let's select GCP Pinas for our project, and let's press continue. All right, let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay, there you go. So now it's enabling the API, and we just wait a little bit. And the API is enabled. Yay! Next, to use your API, you'll need the right credentials. Let's disregard that. Let's go back to our quick start, and we say install and initialize the Cloud SDK. There's a link that you can follow. I've already done that, so I won't go through that. Now, hold on. My mom just entered the room. Mommy, I'm in a call. I'm giving a talk. What's this? Oh, she gave me snacks. The beauty of... Okay, so I'll eat that shortly. The perks of living with your mom. Okay, thank you, Mommy. Anyways, that was the intermission commercial break. So let's talk about the additional prerequisites. We've already created the cloud project. We've done that. We download and install Git. We can also do that. I've already done that. And then you prepare your environment for Node.js development. I've also already done that. So if you're a Node.js developer, you prepared for Node.js, you've most likely done that already. If you're a Python developer, then you prepared for Python, etc., etc. So this quick start demonstrates a simple Node.js application written with the Express.js framework. That's what we're going to use. So first thing is download the sample code. Now you download the Node.js sample app repository, which is very big, actually. And since the internet for the Philippines is slow this weekend, so we're not going to go ahead and download everything, right? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the actual file that we need. It's engine. And then we're going to go to hello world. And then we are going to go to standard because we're using app engine standard. Okay. And then we're going to copy this whole directory. Well, actually the most important files are this 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go ahead and open that, and I'm going to copy paste them manually. So hold on. Let me create a new how do I do this? Oh, let's copy there. Let's create this one. Let's copy this. Let's press raw. Okay, copy this. Save that. This is app.js. So we're going to create a new desktop. Let's call it GCP Pinas. All right, let's put the file there. Let's call it app.js. You save that. There you go. Next, let's close that. Next up is this one, raw. This is the app.yaml. So let's copy also it here. Let's paste that. Now you could just clone this as Git, but my internet is not super, and I'm afraid it will not work. So we'll just do one by one copy paste. Okay. Now raw and but Albert, you could have just downloaded this whole thing beforehand. Yes, but I told you I want to do a live demo. So I'm just showing you exactly how it's done. Okay, this one is package.json. But we need to delete this bit part over here because that's not right. Okay, we save that. So now we have three files. Okay, app.js. Okay, there you go. Great. Okay, app.yaml and app.js. Now let's go back to our tutorial. Let's close these things. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, now we changed to the directory that contains the Hello World app. We don't need to do that because we created it locally. Now we need to run Hello World locally. So first one is npm install. Now, in my days, did you know that copy pasting for me was that I had to, when I started programming, I don't even have copy paste. I literally copied and typed from a book. I read from a book and I have to type it. And then now as programmers nowadays, we got it so lucky. We can just copy paste. And you know what's even crazier? Is there's this button on the upper right over here, which allows you to press it and it automatically copies for you so that you don't have to highlight and copy. Isn't that amazing? My gosh, we're so spoiled. Okay, we copy and then let's open a new terminal over here. Let's open a new terminal. We got that over there. And then let's paste it. Let's navigate to the directory that we have cd desktop. This is GCP Pinas, and then let's run npm install. Okay, so this is the part. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. I will tend to answer the questions during times like these. Faye or any of Joy, feel free to like send me questions as they come along, especially when I ask for them if there are any. Okay, now npm has installed the necessary package dependencies. So now we start the HTTP server. We copy this again, go over here, we npm start, we press enter, and now our app is listening to port 8080 on localhost. So let's go over that. Go over there. So localhost 8080 and hello world. Awesome. Now let's just change that. Hello GCP. All right. Pinas. There you go. And then let's refresh it. It doesn't change. Well, because I don't have a listener over here, don't have a watcher. So I have to run npm start again. You can add a watcher if you want. So there you go. Hello GCP Pinas. I can make this pretty. Let's just go over here. This one, let's spend 2 minutes just going to get some Bootstrap over here. Bootstrap getting started. Templates, just so we make it not so embarrassing. You know, it's like grade 6, level 6 work. So over here, let's get this one. Let's view the source. Let's copy all of that and let's put it in here. This is not best practice, by the way, but don't worry, this is not about best practices. This is about App Engine. So let's change the title. Let's call it GCP Pinas. Let's copy that. Let's remove all this navigation over here. Let's call this one GCP Pinas. Let's put in here welcome to GCP Pinas. And let's remove these things. And then let's remove the bottom parts. Let's change the footer. Let's change it to 2021. And let's call it GCP Pinas. Copyright. Wow, copyright. Even if we're just copying. Haha. Okay, let's do that. Let's go to npm start. Let's refresh this one. Let's close that. Close that. Refresh. Okay, it's the CSS. The styles are not there. Let's go back over here. Let's get those links. Okay, keep forgetting this one. Let's look for that CSS. Let's hot link this. CSS, where are you? Okay, over there. Now space that. And then let's get the other one, Jumbotronaro. Let's get this one. Okay, there we go. Save that. We'll see. We can start. 2 minutes is over. And let's close, hide the evidence, and go refresh. Oh yeah, we now got a better website. And then time to call teacher. Teacher, I'm done. Woohoo. All right. Okay. Oh, let's add an exclamation point there because it just doesn't feel so welcome without an exclamation point. So welcome to GCP Pinas with. All right. Let's try it. Let's go. Oh, double backslash escape that thing. I think that's how you do it. Let's do it. Fresh. Oh yeah. Okay, much better. All right. Now, the first thing we want to do, we've developed our application, our website locally. It's now time to deploy. So how do you deploy with App Engine? So we continue in the quick start over here. So we can then say deploy and run Hello World on App Engine. So you just type gcloud app deploy. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to our terminal. We'll see. Say gcloud. Let's make this bigger so that you guys can see. Okay. Let's close this. Okay, gcloud app deploy. I'm going to add a parameter -- project equals GCP Pinas, which is our project ID. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. Where is our project ID? Well, our project ID can be found over here. In your console, it's this one, project ID. Under project info, you have project ID, then that's GCP Pinas. So remember that. So we're deploying to this project. Okay, so now we have to please choose the region where you want your App Engine application located. Warning, it is irreversible and the region cannot be changed. So choose wisely. So what region should we choose? I'm going to choose Asia East 2. And I'm going to explain more about this while this is loading. But I'm going to choose 1, which is Asia East 2 over here. Okay, that's number 1. Hit enter. And then it's now going to create the App Engine application in Project GCP Pinas and region Asia East 2. Okay, so while that's doing that, let me just make sure that it goes through. If you have any questions, we can flash it in the screen and I can answer it. Now it's going to ask me, are you sure that you want to deploy this? And the answer is yes. So I type Y and I hit enter. And then let me just make sure. Unable to, could be Gaia, propagation delay, or request from deleted apps. This is interesting because this has never happened to me before. I told you a while ago, this is the time where you channel your positive energy into the screen. Let's try it again. Okay. Project equals GCP Pinas. Yes. Done. Oh my goodness. Let me just make sure that this is happening, that this will actually work. And okay, it looks like it's working. It's you just had to retry it. So sometimes, guys, when things don't work, just try it one more time. Okay, now what the world region? I didn't have to. Okay, so let's go visit that and let's go to Google and let's type Google Cloud regions. Okay, so over here you can see global locations, regions, and zones, and you can see that the Google Cloud has about 24 regions around the world, 73 zones, 144 edge locations, and it's available in 200 plus countries. So if you look at it, this is the world map, right? Every blue region, every blue dot is a region, meaning it's a place where Google Cloud has a data center and your servers will reside there. Your application will reside and serve traffic from there. Let me just double check if it's still serving. Okay, that's serving. I mean, that's deploying, so that's good. So we live in this place called Philippines over here. At least I do. I don't know where you're watching this from, but I'm watching it. I'm streaming from here. This is where my application, this is where my users are, GCP, Pinas, because it's Pilipinas. So I want to place it in regions that are nearby. And the closest one looks like these 3 dots over here. It's Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore. So that's where I would put it. Now, Hong Kong is actually Asia East 2. Now, Albert, how do I know which region to pick? Well, it's easy. First, you have to decide where most of your users are, and then where most of your users are going to be, then you visit this website called gcping.com. Okay, gcping.com. And then what's going to happen is that this is going to ping all the GCP regions. It's going to return to you which has the lowest latency. Remember when you're playing multiplayer games, multiplayer online games, you have to pick a server and then you pick the one with the lowest latency. This is exactly the same thing, because if you pick a region with a server with a higher latency, it's going to be lag, and you don't want lag. So same thing, you want your server, your application to serve without lag or very little lag, and you do that by choosing the server or the data center, choosing the region closest to your users. So in this case, right now, Asia East 2 is the closest at 50 ms. Asia Singapore 1 is at 85. Now, this is interesting for me because I actually switched my internet connection today up to my backup line. My main line is slow today. So you can guess which one I am on my main line. But my backup line today is the other provider. And it turns out that for my backup line, it's faster to reach Singapore than Hong Kong, Asia East 2. So should have picked this one as the region, right? Now, App Engine is not available in all regions, so you're kind of limited also with your choices. But this is a good guide, gcping.com. And obviously, don't pick anything that's really, really far away, like Europe North 1. Don't pick that if your users are all in the Philippines. It'll like take almost 2 seconds for your server to respond and to get the request and respond and so on. Okay, so now that I've explained what regions are, let me now go back and see if it's deployed. Great, now it's deployed. So we have now deployed a service default to gcppinas.df.r.upspot.com. So you can go ahead and visit that. So let's go ahead and visit that. So we type gcppinas, well, it was a long one actually, .df.r. We can copy that, copy. But I will teach you a shortcut. This one also works with gcp-pinas.upspot.com. That one also works. So I like that one because it's shorter. So I hit enter. And dun, 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 dun. Welcome to GCP Pinas. So now we have deployed our website on App Engine running on Google Cloud. Now, please feel free to visit that, gcp-pinas.upspot.com. Okay, so now we've got it deployed. So awesome. What's next? Well, you know what? When you're a developer, you don't want to always be running like this, where like you develop over here and then whenever you want to deploy, you want to deploy. That's kind of not the best practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a GitHub repository. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to github.com. I'll open up my GitHub. So I'll make a new repository. I'll call it GCP Pinas. Yes, it's available. It's great. I'll make it public because, so that you guys can see it. But actually, I can also make this private. Okay, but I'll make it public anyway. So make it public and then, create the repository. So we create the repository. Now, let's follow these instructions because we want to push our code to this repository. So we'll push an existing repository. Okay, so let's copy this one. We can copy the whole thing. Okay, let's copy the whole thing. We copy that. Let's go back here and let's just run git init. Okay, and then let's paste that. Okay, because it says main. Oh well, we haven't committed anything, so we'll git add everything. Git add. Well, the node modules will not be good. So git app.js, git add app.yaml, and then git add package.json, and git add package.lock JSON. Git status. Okay, we're going to git commit -m initial commit, which is the best commit message ever, right? Git commit, then we're going to git push. And then let's copy that. Okay, paste. Okay, so now we're pushing our code to GitHub. Now, GitHub is not part of Google Cloud, obviously. But now that our code is over there, what we can do is we're going to link it to our Google Cloud. Okay, app.js, app.yaml, app.lock. So the next thing to Google is, so we're done with this quick start for Node.js. We're going to Google another thing, google.com. We're going to Google App Engine Cloud Build GitHub. Okay. Okay, it's here, over here. Quick start, automate app engine deployments with Cloud Build. Awesome. Okay, great, great, great. So we can just follow this one. Enable the API. So we have to enable the App Engine admin and Cloud Build API. So let's go ahead and click that. Let's click that. And let's close these other things that I don't need so that I don't get confused. All right. GCP Pinas, let's select that one. Let's press continue. And it's now enabling those APIs, and we kind of just wait. Yay, it's enabled. That's pretty fast. Okay, that's good. Now grant App Engine access to the Cloud Build service account. So we have to go into the Cloud Build settings page. So we can go to the Cloud Build settings page by clicking this button, or I'm going to show you how we go there. So we can click this and navigate over there. Now look for Cloud Build, which is far, far away, or we can type here, just like we did, Cloud Build. And then we go click over that, and then we go to settings. Okay, we go to settings, and then we enable it for App Engine. So we say enable, and then we also additional, okay, APIs, Cloud Build integration. You can enable the API. Okay, so go to API. So we follow instructions, guys. We just click when things pop up. We follow it. Well, we also read. Okay, don't be like just click, 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 whatever. So this is already enabled. It just got freshly enabled. So maybe that's why I got confused. So App Engine enabled, and then service account enabled. Okay. So make sure you enable service account and make sure you enable App Engine, because that's what we're going to deploy to. Okay, what's next? Quick start. Well, we go to deploy our app. Well, we've done that already. So create a cloud build.yaml file. This is an important part where we say, we copy this and we create a cloud build.yaml. So we go back over here. Okay. We create a new file. We save that. We call it cloud build.yaml. This cloud build YAML is the configuration file that will set up automatic. This will not automatic, but this will instruct Cloud Build on how to deploy our application. So what this says is that let's use this cloud builder called gcloud, which is essentially what we type here. The gcloud, what we type. You see this gcloud command will say gcloud app deploy -- project equals GCP Pinas, right? That's what we use to deploy our App Engine application. So what essentially is this builder is gcloud, which is gcloud command, and we're passing app and deploy, which is app and deploy, to it so that it runs the command gcloud app deploy. Okay? All right. And then timeout is that we will wait 1,600 seconds before timing out. So that's a lot of time. Okay, let's go back here and we add it, and then we create a build trigger. Okay, let's create a build trigger. Let's follow instructions. Now go in the GCP console, open the cloud build triggers page. So let's go back here. And then you see in the cloud build, we have the triggers page. So we click that. And then we're going to create, well, let's create. We have to scroll down. My screen is so zoomed in. So I have to create trigger over here. We press create trigger. And then it's going to ask us to, let's say, deploy my awesome app. You don't have to name it that way, but it's funner if we name it cooler, right? This deploys the main branch from our GitHub repository. Okay, and then you can leave this tags thing. There's a question mark if you want to add that. But we say, when do we want this trigger to run? Well, we want this trigger to run when we push to a branch or push a new tag, or it's a pull request. Well, we say push to a branch, okay? And we push it to a branch. What branch? So the repository we'll connect first our new repository. Let's connect that. Done. So we have two choices, GitHub or Bitbucket. We'll choose GitHub because that's where it is, right? So let's continue. It's now going to prompt me to link with my GitHub account. So let's wait like a few seconds here while it's trying to authenticate. something should pop out. So, okay, this I've already done this step before, so there was no pop out. But if you've done this for the first time, there should be like a pop up from GitHub, which will prompt you, allow Google Cloud to connect to your GitHub repository. Agree or disagree, something like that. So you have to agree. So I link it in my Albert Padden GitHub account, and the repository is, let's type filter GCP Pinas. It's over here. Yay! Click that, press OK. And then I understand, blah, 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 the terms of service. You can read it in detail on your own. You press connect. And it is now linking our GitHub repository over here, okay, with Cloud Build over here. Okay. Now, what branch? We'll use main branch. So whenever there is a push to main or a merge to main, then we are going to use the Cloud Build configuration file, okay? And it's in the Albert Pan GCP Pinas GitHub app, and it's the /cloudbuild.yaml, which, by the way, we have not pushed yet. It's still over here in our local. It's not yet in our GitHub, but we'll just configure this trigger for now, okay? Now we can add substitution variables, which we won't for now. Let's press create. Okay. Now that the trigger is created, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. So now the trigger is created. It's also enabled. We look at our history, and there is just one run from like 4:23 p.m. So that was like about 15 minutes ago. So now what we're going to do is we're going to push to our GitHub main branch. Let's do that. So we now have added our Cloud Build. So we go git status, and we see that we have Cloud Build.yaml over here as one of the untracked files. We're going to git add Cloud Build.yaml. Okay. And it's that. But to make it more obvious, what we're going to do is we're going to also change the return from welcome to GCP Pinas. We're going to say welcome to GCP Pinas, and then we're going to add lots of exclamation points. And then we're going to say yo at the beginning. Yo, welcome to GCP Pinas. That's more like better welcome. Okay. So git status again. And then so we git add app.js because we modify that. So git status. Okay, we're ready to commit. Git commit -m. We say add Cloud Build and make welcome more welcoming. Great. Hit enter and then git push. We're pushing this to main. Okay, so now that it's pushed to main, let's check out our GitHub. Let's check out our GitHub. Oh, by the way, let's watch this first for now. Let's watch the trigger. And there, without doing anything, something is happening. So let's go back to GitHub and refresh this. And now we've seen that it's been updated. We now have an additional commit about 22 seconds ago. But what is happening in Cloud Build? We can go ahead and click that. Let's go ahead and click that, the first one. You may be wondering what the second one was. The second one is like a sub build. It's automatically done by the Cloud Build. So don't worry about that. So what we're seeing now is that Cloud Build is now running our command, which is app deploy. So app deploy, it is now running, and it is now deploying. So do you want to continue? It's automatically saying yes. File upload done, and we will wait until it succeeds. And when it succeeds, when we refresh this, it should have, no, not this one. It's a GCP Pinas. That's what.com. So it's still no yo. There's still no yo. We'll wait for this when it succeeds. But we're not doing anything, right? Not doing anything. It's not automatically just deploying. So I can take a question while waiting. If you have any question. And I'm gonna, how do you get yourself from being overwhelmed with all the offerings of Google Cloud? That's a good question. There's this saying, there's this question. How do you eat an elephant? Because an elephant is big, it's huge, it's overwhelming. So how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. Yeah, that's how you eat an elephant. One bite at a time. Likewise, how do you learn all of these things in Google Cloud? Well, one product at a time, one quick start code lab at a time, one live stream at a time, one at the time. So I started with App Engine 2008. That was like 13 years ago. That's when I started. And I've explored far away from it, and I've tried many other things as well. But you have to start somewhere. Okay, so thank you for that question. I hope that makes sense. Now let's go back to our cloud build. There's a check. It's successful. Great. Woohoo! Okay, it's done. Now let's go to our GCP Pinas over here and let's do a refresh. And yo, welcome to GCP Pinas. Now this is so cool that it's automatically happening, that I can actually go to GCP Pinas here, and I can go to my repository, and I can just say, for example, edit this one. I can even go over here and I will say edit the file in GitHub directly, right? I will then say, actually, yo sounds too aggressive. So instead of saying yo, we're going to say hello. So let's change it to hello. So let me zoom in so you can see that I'm typing hello. So as you can see over here, it's hello. Hello, hello there. Hello there. Okay. Now we then just go all the way to the bottom. We say that commit changes. Let's use the defaults. Let's commit directly, and let's commit the change. And it's now committed. Of course, then cloud build, we go back here to the history, and without doing anything, it's already triggered a build. So that's great. Okay, now we will see that shortly, but without waiting for it, so that we have enough time for some more questions later, I'm gonna also show you like how do you debug, right? How do you debug in App Engine? So let's go over here in our app, and let's actually also edit it again in GitHub. It's not best practice, by the way, to edit it in GitHub. I'm just showing you that you can do it because you don't have to show you that I'm not deploying from my local anymore. I'm just pushing to my Git repository or editing it there directly. So it's now connected to my repository. So other people can make pull requests, and then once it's merged to main, it automatically kicks off the cloud build pipeline and automatically deploys. And that's pretty cool. So we can type in here console.log. We say this is a request. I mean, you can log whatever you want. So let's change this. Very important variable value here, right? And you can just put whatever variable value. Oh, no, I hit save wrong. So you can put whatever variable you want there, but let's just put a placeholder. So we added console.log. So we say add console.log. Now, console.log is not the best thing to use. There are other logging tools to use, but to keep it simple, to keep things without having to go into the details of how to log things, it's just adding console.log. And whatever is written to console.log, I will show you. It will appear somewhere. So now that we've committed that, Cloud Build should automatically also, 1 second ago, it kicked it off. So if we actually go over here and refresh this, it should now be hello there. See? We're now deploying stuff automatically. It's now become easy. Our life as a developer is now chill, chill, chill. So cool. Okay, so let's wait for that. While waiting for that, I can take one more question. Let's wait for that. And while waiting, remember my mom a while ago, commercial break, she sent some snacks. It's what do you call this? It's mais with milk. What do you say that? Mais con hielo, but there's no yellow. There's only mais and milk, corn and milk. So are there any questions, Faye, Joy, and while I eat? Wow, this just turned into a mukbang. Wow, from Google Cloud Talk to mukbang very quickly. I didn't do this on purpose, guys, but I don't know what to do while waiting. So I'm just gonna go ahead and eat this. So if you have any questions about App Engine, Cloud Build, or anything about Google Cloud in general, feel free to ask them. So is this your first time to have it's my first time definitely to have a mukbang while doing a Google Cloud live stream demo. So okay, yay. So now it's back to success. So let's go ahead and visit our site. So remember, there was no change. We only did console.log, but we're just going to refresh this a couple of times and then say, hey, Albert, so where did that go? Okay, where it went, it's in something called cloud logging. Select logging, and here you go, cloud logging. So I go to cloud logging or logging, and I will should be able to see the logs of my application. So it's actually quite tight. So let me zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole thing. So there's a lot of things over here, right? Now we can remove the things we don't want. So for example, I'm going to remove this one, make that smaller, remove this for now. And as you can see in my logs, I have here the different requests that are made to my application and the response. So for example, in here, I say 304. What is 304 status for the slash one over here, slash? So let's add one slash, let's say question mark B, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. So we do that. And then let's look for it on our logs. Where is that request? We can edit this from last 1 hour to last 30 seconds. Let's do just last 30 seconds. There you go. The blah, 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 blah. When you see it, let me zoom in. Oops, too zoomed in. Okay, one more. There you go. So this is the request. We can click it. We can see my IP address, where the IP address is where it came from. We can even see like, whoops, we can see like I'm using a Mac, Mac OS, Apple WebKit, Google Chrome, the version, what I'm visiting, and how long it took, the latency, and so on. But remember that console.log that we did a while ago? This one? A very important variable value over here. Okay. The very important variable value over here is now right here. Very important variable value here. So this can definitely help you with your debugging. So you just put logging in your application. If you write to console.log, it'll automatically appear here. So if you refresh it a couple of times, refresh, we go to log and we refresh this page, for example, we can then see the logs come in. So let's close this again. There you go, very important value. Let's change this to last 15 minutes. And then we can even search this. So I will just say important. So search important. So yeah, there you go. The app has made a log line, a very important variable value here, and so on at these times. So I can click that, and then I can see the summary of that request. Yeah, there are ways to actually link this to the request, and it doesn't work with console.log out of the box. You can use a logging library for that, and it will work after doing that. So you can just Google it, called App Engine Node Logging, maybe there, writing and viewing logs, so you can see that. So yep, writing and viewing logs. It will teach you how to do that without using console.log. Oops, that's not the one. This is not the one. I should say App Engine. I think this is the one. Yeah, for this you have to use I think Winston or Bunyan. So this is a logging library. Okay, so that's with logging and debugging. Now the last thing I want to show you is actually this. Remember a while ago we said hello there, but you know what? I take it back. Yo was actually cooler, right? Yo was cooler and hello there. Now do I have to like deploy this thing again? Actually, what you can do is you can go here and go to your App Engine dashboard. And this is the App Engine dashboard. You can see like a summary of the requests. This is the dashboard. Okay. You can see how much it's costing you. And as you can see, it's 0, 0, 0. Woohoo! It's for free. Yay. As long as we stay within the free tier, it's great. We can see the number of the load, the most requested ones, like slash over here. Okay. And by the way, there's this thing called view traces over here, which if I click this, I can see that the requests that go to my app and say, this one takes long. Why does it take long? It's taking about 1,000 milliseconds. Why? Let's click that one. And then we can see that it took, this is what it took. And we can show the logs. This request cost, this request cost a new process to be started. That's why. Okay, so now we understand. So you can do that. Now going back to our App Engine dashboard, what we wanted to do is, the question again is, I didn't want the hello there. I actually want the yo. So I go over here, the App Engine dashboard, and I go to something called versions. Every time our App Engine app is deployed, it deploys to a new version. And you can see that the 444, 442, 439. I think the yo was on this one is the console.log. If you look at the commits, let's look at the commit history so that we are not guessing. So let's look at the commits history. So we added console.log and then update app.js. So I think this is oh, we did this one, the second one, I guess. Make more welcoming. Let me see this one. Yeah, this is the yo. Okay. So this one, was this yo still or this was already, oh, this was already hello there. So it's the second deploy that we did. So over here, we go back to App Engine versions and we should go back to this one, right? So we then press this thing over here called migrate traffic. All requests will be immediately routed to this version. This may cause latency. Yes, we want everything back to hello, to yo. I don't want the hello there. We migrate it. We route all traffic there. So without having to do any deployment, we can essentially do a rollback. Rolling back. So if you deploy the bug, you're like, no, actually I don't want that. You can just roll back. So this is very useful for us when we deploy something. It doesn't work great in production. We roll back. It's great. We go back here. We refresh and it's back to yo. And I refresh a lot of times. It's still back to yo. And I'm like, you know what? On second thought, yo is actually, hello there is actually better. Okay, fine. You don't know how to make up your mind. Okay, then let's go back over here and then let's migrate again back to that one. So we can do that. We can migrate traffic from one version to another, and once it's migrated, there you go. We can refresh over here and it's instantly back to hello there. Now your boss is like saying, but you know what? Actually, you kind of had that feel. And I'm like, oh, can't make up your mind. My goodness. You know what? Let's let the users decide. Okay. How do you let the users decide? Well, you can do A/B testing. What's A/B testing? Well, we can show one version to one set of users and another version to another set of users. Interesting. And let's see how many of them actually, like, how many of them, like, based on their behavior, we can make a decision. Okay. So what you can do is you can actually select both. And then instead of type of selecting migrate traffic, you select split traffic. Dun, dun, dun. Split traffic by IP address, cookie. So these are the ways you can do it. We will choose random so I can demo it. We'll choose random and we will do 50-50. So half of the time, it will randomly go to the previous version, to one version, and half the time to another version. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. Okay, I'm just going to type 50 here. 50. Okay, there. Great. Save. You can even split traffic across more than two versions, maybe like 3 versions or 4 versions. Up to you. Okay. So now it's updating the traffic settings. Traffic split is done. And now if we go back to our versions, we can see it's 50% here, 50% there. Awesome. Now let's hit refresh here. So now we're seeing hello there. We refresh. Yo, refresh. Hello there. Refresh. Yo, refresh. Hello there. Refresh. Yo. Yo. Hello there. Yo, hello there. Awesome. So now we are doing like some sort of split traffic A/B testing. That's great for A/B testing. You can also use this, for example, if you're not sure if your new version, you just deploy a new version and you're not super confident about it. Like you have like thousands of users and you're not sure if it works really well, or there might be a bug in it. So what you can do is you can actually migrate traffic, split traffic, and allocate it like 1%. 1% of random traffic. And then you monitor it in the logs, right? And if there are issues in the logs, then you can okay, bring it back to 0% from 1%. So you're doing what do you call it? Staggered rollout, like gradual rollout. 1%, okay, good. There's no errors. Okay, 5%. Okay, there's no errors. And you can do that even across at scale. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so what have I shown you? Let's go back to Google Cloud. What have I shown you? What I've shown you is how to use App Engine, how to link it with Cloud Build so that you can automatically do deployments, and by just pushing to your GitHub repository, it automatically deploys. You don't have to worry about those steps. Um, and then I've also shown you how to debug with logs, and I've also shown you how to um, do manage the traffic, migrate the traffic, and do traffic splitting. So those are just some of the tools that I think really empowers a person like me when I was way younger and I was just a solo developer, and I could run my applications at scale, meaning thousands of users, and there were even applications that had millions of hits, millions of visits, and App Engine just performed really well, and I didn't have to worry about scaling it, and whenever there was an issue, I could just roll back, click, and migrate the traffic, and that was a great experience. So very useful for me. So yeah, that's it. Now I think we can go to the questions if there are any. Happy to take them. Hi Trisha. Bye Trisha.
Hi,
Hi.
Sir Albert.
Hi Faye.
So let me just take the questions from our
Sure.
Facebook. So first, where can I begin if I want to start learning about Google Cloud non-developer here?
Oh, if you're not a developer, I would suggest you actually start learning first how to make a web application, right? Like, because the cloud tool is really for developers, or when you already kind of know how to code. So if you don't know how to code yet, I will suggest that you learn how to code first. That will be the first step. So learn how to do HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the web technologies. That's really important. There are many resources. One of my favorites is something called Project Odin. The Odin project, your career in web development starts here. So you can go ahead and try that out. Um, Basically, it teaches you what to learn. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Git, databases. Well, I would skip Ruby on Rails. That's just my personal preference. I would go straight to Node.js. And then there's also a Getting Hired over here. So yeah, this one is my recommendation. Um, for a non-developer. But once you're already a developer and you want to learn Google Cloud, I would suggest you get your feet wet with serverless. So I would go over here and go to Google Cloud serverless technologies, and these are really the serverless computing solutions. These are, where are they? So these are Cloud Run, Cloud Functions. I would recommend a Cloud Functions and App Engine first, because you could get things done here without having to know Docker yet. But once you know Docker, you can then go to Cloud Run. I would recommend the serverless applications first, or the products first, because once you learn how to use them, you could have high impact without having to learn everything yet, right? You can get good things done without having to learn so much. So serverless is the first step for my recommendation.
Okay. Thanks, Sir Albert. So I think last question, or actually not a question, but can you please share with us your tips on how we can utilize its services, the GCP services with minimal cost?
Yeah, the tip that I would share that actually helped me minimize costs is to actually understand the billing, or the pricing of each product that you're using. Now, nothing else is going to hurt you more than if you don't understand how the GCP pricing works for that specific products, and then you just go about, and then you might just be surprised now. Oh my gosh, is I get this bill? Why did I get this bill? And then you look at the pricing and you're like, oh, that's why. So first tip that I would share is definitely look at pricing over here. Click that, and you can look at price list, and that should give you the price list for all the Google Cloud products. And let me give you an example, for example, for App Engine. So let's go to App Engine. Let's look for compute, and let's go to App Engine. Where's App Engine? App Engine. There you go. Serverless computing, sorry. You go to App Engine, you click that, and the pricing here is not, let's just say, it's not the same as everything, actually. So each region has a different price. So you remember we chose Asia East 2. So Asia East 2 is, where are you? There you go. It's a little bit more expensive than Iowa, US Central 1, but just by a little. And so the instance class that you use, it has different cost per hour instance size. So you have to take that into consideration. Meaning, these ones are usually they can handle more load, and there are pros and cons to each. So maybe if you go to Stack Overflow and you ask like how to speed up my App Engine application, and then you read an answer there and it says turn your instance class to F41G, that will help, and that's true, that will help. But maybe they will not tell you, or they will forget to tell you that it will also cost you what, 6 times more. Now we have applications where we run F41G, and it's worth it, it's better. But if you don't know the pricing, then you might just do it and you will catch yourself like not what do you call this, you'll be like, oh my goodness, I have a big bill, right? So definitely read up on the pricing. And it's not just about instance class, you also have to read up on, like, this one is the traffic. So make sure that the bandwidth that you're sending, meaning the response, it's optimized. You're not sending the response to the request with everything like that's unnecessary. You make sure that your response to the requests are efficient, meaning or compressed, and just enough amount. You're not like sending big files or big amounts of data that the user will not even use anyway. Keep your responses lean. If it's an API call, make it lean so that you save up on network. And then there are other ones over here. Yeah, well, that's for App Engine. Each product has different ones. For example, I'm gonna go over one of these things, which is App Engine. Is this one, Cloud Functions. For Cloud Functions, is a very unique billing way of pricing. So for example, first 2 million invocations is free. Beyond 2 million, you get 40 cents per million invocations. What's an invocation? Per every time your function is called. Okay, every time. So you get first 2 million calls for free per month. So that's pretty cool. But compute time. So you have here, if your function is taking long to respond, it takes long, like you're doing an infinite loop there, or you're doing a very unnecessary, inefficient for loop, then this is a price per 100 milliseconds. And depending on what instance that you use, instance size that you use, right? So there are nuances like this. So the tip that I really going for is this. What you should do is you should look at the pricing of the product that you're using and understand them. And once you understand them, you can then apply, okay, we should tend to avoid these things and we should go for this. And you can weigh the pros and cons and make a good decision on how to optimize for cost and at the same time optimizing for performance. Okay? Because sometimes if you just purely optimize for cost, then your app could be also not as great as it can be, right? Most things are already fast on App Engine, but if you have like you're doing a lot of things, then maybe if your app is doing a lot of heavy computing, then maybe you need to increase the instance size to make it more performant, and that would be actually at the end of the day cheaper or better experience for your users. So understand the price so you can do the trade-offs and the analysis better. You're on mute. Oh, I can't hear you.
Can you
There,
hear me now?
you're back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So last question we have from YouTube. Is that true that when someone DDoS attack your web app, your bill is gonna go skyrocketed on the serverless products?
So the short answer is it's complicated, but the truth is, I mean, like, yes, like when somebody is sending a DDoS attack to your web app, it means that they're also using a lot of resources to attack you. So, for example, in my experience, there was only one time in 12 years of running Google Cloud, there was only one time where we actually had a DDoS attack. And this DDoS attack was because one of our clients was like their website showed up on the first page of Google when you type Philippine websites. Like they showed up in the first page of Google. So there was like an issue, like a foreign international issue, where some fishermen in the Philippines and some fishermen outside the Philippine country, like another country, like I think this was Taiwan. Like I think Philippine Taiwan in the big ocean, the Taiwan fishermen and Taiwan and the Philippine fishermen, like they had a quarrel in the ocean, and so some people from Taiwan, I think, felt very bad about this. I think this was about 2011, 2012. They felt strongly about it, and then so they started to DDoS attacks Philippine websites. So this website of our client, which was on the top of the Philippine website list, was getting DDoSed, and so what happened was, yeah, the website never went down. So that's one thing. That was a good thing. The website never went down, but the usage increased. So what did we do? Okay, let me show you a demo. Okay, there is this thing called App Engine Firewall rules. So for example, I am going to by default it's allowing all the IP address. So I can create a rule over here, and I will say priority. I don't even know. How do I do priority? I forgot already how to do. I think this is an integer like 100. Okay. Action on match deny. Remember a while ago I have an IP address. What's my IP address? Let me look for my IP address. What's my IP? What's my IP? What's my IP? My goodness, such a wrong. Okay, this is my IP address. I go over here, and then I put IP range /24. I think that's how you do it. Nope, just IP address. Okay, and then this is Albert's house. And it will deny. All right, it will deny. Remember, right now let's just test it. I can still hit it. Okay, but now let's see it. Save. Let's see if I actually deny. Yeah, priority higher 100. Okay, that's great. Let's see, refresh this one if anything happens. There. Like I'm now denied access. I can't now. Okay, so Google is now blocking me. So what we did was basically set up a firewall rule for all the IP address ranges in that area that was DDoSing us, and we didn't get billed for that. It doesn't even reach our application, so we don't get billed for it. Okay. Now, two things I want to just add. That this is true for anything. If you get a DDoS attack, no matter where you are, somebody has to pay for the bill, right? But the chance of you getting DDoSed is extremely small, unless you're like a government website, unless like you are an application of interest. Like there's really little chance to be DDoS. There's a higher chance that you are going to make a function that, what do you call this, that will run an infinite loop. And because I've done this many times, will like run an infinite loop or something that suddenly like every time the application is requested, it will run an infinite loop, and now I get charged big, very big, because I'm doing something extremely inefficient and using so much resources. So that has a higher chance. So I wouldn't worry too much about DDoS, but if you are worried about that, there are tools like this to prevent that. There's also like what do you call this, DNS level tools like Cloudflare that can help you what do you call this, with those things. But I would honestly not worry about it too much unless you have a specific reason to worry about it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Albert. Last question. So, why Google Cloud versus Azure?
I've used both. I like Google Cloud. Like, I mean, guys, look, Google Cloud, Azure, AWS, they're all clouds. I love it that they're competing to create the best products for us developers, and I love it. And I use Google Cloud, I use Azure, and I use AWS. Okay, I use Google Cloud more, not because it's like it's better, even though it is I'm biased and I like it, but it really depends on the context of your application. And so, for example, if you're trying to use App Engine, there's very little comparable services in Azure and in AWS that actually compete well with App Engine in the App Engine category. There are AWS products that I would use that I would say are better than Google Cloud. So, for example, there is a facial recognition API in what do you call this in AWS, where you could store faces of people and put their names there, and then AWS will return to you the name of that person when you upload a new one. Google Google Cloud doesn't have that. They have facial recognition, but they don't have face recognition. Sorry, they have face detection, but they don't have facial recognition, like the actual name. I think they do it on purpose. They don't offer that. So I would use AWS for that one. And I'm sure there are other stuff in Azure. So a broad comparison of Google Cloud versus Azure, all three are really great. I use all three. Where the comparison happens is in the per product and per situation. So yeah, but for App Engine, I would go with Google Cloud. Period.
All right. Thank you so much, Sir Albert. I bet definitely our solo developers who are watching us right now are more confident to use Google App Engine because of your talk. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Faye.
Thank you, sir. All right. So I think Trisha is now here. So let me give back the floor to her. Hi, Trisha.
Hi, Faye. So thanks again, Sir Albert, for that talk about Google App Engine, Google Cloud. Okay, for sure. Okay, our solo developers are much more empowered right now. Okay, when it comes to developing things with Google technologies. So, all right. Please feel free to comment if you have any follow-up questions, and please feel free to share this stream, okay, to your friends using the hashtag GDG Philippines, hashtag Android, hashtag Google Cloud, and hashtag Google Technologies. So you can replay it, you rewatch it later on, just in case you missed the previous topics, okay? So just feel free to rewatch and share the video. Thank you. So, okay, let's see what are we looking forward to when it comes to our future events here in GDG. Okay. All right, so we have an upcoming event, okay, together with WTM or Women Tech Makers Manila, the IWD 2021. Okay, let's please have the poster for that pulled up. There you go. Thank you. So on April 17th, please mark your calendars, okay, as we will be celebrating, okay, the International Women's Day, okay, 2021. Make sure to register at gdg.community.dev/e/m2g6d3. So there's the link on the screen. Okay, so this is made possible by the different Women Tech Maker chapters in the Philippines with the theme Courage to Create. Of course, we want to definitely highlight the different women that we have in the tech field for this day. So there, make sure again to set your alarms, mark your calendars for April 17, 2021. Okay, so what else do we have here? I believe we also have Level Up with GDE there. So please tune in for updates about our Level Up with GDE. So last year we launched this event, okay, wherein we featured different Google developer experts, okay, when it comes to different Google technologies, and we'll be having sessions with them, very insightful talks. So make sure, okay, to please subscribe to our Facebook page, okay, for updates about this event. Thank you. All right. So, okay, to finally, of course, conclude this event, okay, may we please have Miss Joy Toledo on the screen, the event head for Android and Cloud sessions of GDG Philippines. Miss Joy?
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. So, thank you, Trisha. Thank you, everyone who attended the online event or the online session for Cloud and Android Talk. So, first of all, we'd like to thank our speakers, Kurt and Sir Albert, for always making time to give us a very informative talk today. And thank you so much to everyone who or to all our viewers today, and we hope that you had enjoyed our event today. And since this is the first event of GDG Philippines this 2021. We hope that you look forward to all of our events that we have prepared for all of you to equip you and to help you with all the soft and technical skills that you needed to upskill yourselves or ourselves. And as mentioned earlier by Trisha, there will be an upcoming event, which is the Women Tech Makers International Women's Day event, which is not only for women, but um, anyone can join this event. And also, please look forward for the Level Up with GDE, which is the series of events where we invite all of the GDEs all over the country, all over the world, to give you technical and enlightening talks. And aside from that, let's not stop learning here. So please look forward for the future events, as I mentioned earlier, that we have prepared for all of you. And please, we'll keep you posted. So don't forget to follow us on social media, on our YouTube, or I mean, on our Facebook, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll be informed of our future online events. And see you virtually and stay safe, y'all. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Miss Joy. So again, this has been Trisha Espino together with GDG Philippines. Have a happy Sunday. Saturday, I mean. Enjoy your weekend.